أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المظلومين. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we send our salams to our blessed Imam Hassanain alayhi salatu wassalam, and I ask us all to recite together. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'i alaykum minni salamullah abadan ma baqit wa baqiya al-layl wa an-nahar wa la ja'ala Allah akhir al-ahdi minni لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم يا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with a perfect religion in a perfect world. And when I mean by perfect world, I mean that this existence is perfect. The imperfections that we see are all a mercy of Allah, and really they are not really imperfections. They are a system designed for you and I to participate using free will to pass this exam. And what we see as imperfection is really not imperfection. Sure, our actions appear imperfect, and they are imperfect if we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that holistic vision which Allah has created, which allows a human being to go astray and allows a human being to reject Allah, is a perfect system. For someone to have the ability to reject Allah is a system which Allah created, and it functions perfectly. Because if you and I don't have the free will, then we are drones. We are pre-programmed, and we are here simply to serve nothing. Because at the end of the day, it's meaningless. Because if we are drones, and Allah created us as drones to perform His worship, it would imply that He is in need of our worship. For then what is the reason for a drone to do anything other than to satisfy a need? But rather you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed us with free will, and it is this free will that proves itself that while an individual's ability to come up from a particular status, to elevate an individual, one has to be given the opportunity to demote an individual. Otherwise it doesn't make sense. If a person does not have the capacity to fail, then passing is meaningless. To pass an exam with no ability to fail is a meaningless exam. And to fail without the potential to pass is a meaningless statement. How can you condemn a person for having failed when there was no room to pass? So if we examine this, Allah has given us free will, but the system, as it appears to us, may appear flawed, but if you really look holistically, you will see that every mistake has a silver lining to it. And we will notice that when I speak tonight, inshallah, when I recite Zainab alayha salam's presentation to Yazid in his palace, and when Imam Zain al-Abidin is talking to Yazid and to the people and to the world and to the ummah and to the society forever, they are leaving us with that lesson. That there are those who misunderstand the vision, the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are too material, too temporal, and therefore they see it in a very, what we call, linear fashion, very single-tracked fashion. Therefore they gauge Karbala as an army that had the superior power, as an army that won. And an army, a small army that was killed, that was butchered, that was beheaded, therefore lost. When in fact, When you look very carefully, you will see, in fact, it was the army that butchered, that lost, and the army that sustained its principles to the point of death is the one that won. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There's a feedback, if you don't mind. Allah wants us to recognize, and I'm going to stress on this constantly, because I truly believe in every lecture, whether it is in the time of sadness or in the time of happiness, we must never stop spending a good amount of time recognizing and acknowledging the gifts of Allah. If you really examine, this world is a difficult world, no question about it. My desires come in my way all the time. My passions come in my way all the time. My greed comes in the way all the time. My arrogance and my ego constantly comes in my way. There is no question about it. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not be pretentious in saying, oh, I'm so holy and good. No. All of us have problems. Only those who are prophets and imams are protected with Ruh al-Qudus. They are given this vision that they're able to see evil and truth clearly. There's no gray for them. For you and I, we see grays. And that's the struggle in life. When we see grays, it's fine. It's part of the system. And Allah is saying it's okay that you're in the gray. It's okay that shaitan has the ability to do the waswas, meaning to put this doubt in your heart. It's okay. It's okay that a person can take a bullet and lodge it in your head or kill somebody and behead or bomb people. It's okay. It's part of the system. The trial for you is to avoid it. The trial for you is to go away from it. And the trial for you is to fight it and to prevent it and to make sure others don't do it. If you examine Patrick Henry in 1755, if you study politics in America, made the famous statement which we state in America, give me liberty or give me death. For I cannot see myself a slave of anyone. I cannot crawl on my knees. Some other famous personalities have said, it is better for us to die while standing than to live crawling on our knees as slaves of others. Common sense, isn't it? If I spoke about this to the whole human race, not an individual on earth will deny the truth of this statement. Why? Because dignity comes through suffering and upholding principles, even at the cost of being killed. Ask any human being, they'll tell you that is a dignified human being, not one who has submitted to the tyrant's hands and given himself in the hands of a tyrant. That is what we call ignoble. Nobility is when a person rises and is principled even at the point of being killed. But ignobility, if you want to use the word, meaning a debased person, is the one who sells his soul to the devil. Is the one who gives up for the sake of money. And history is filled with people like that. And Muawiyah was a master of buying people away from Allah. He was good in his treachery. He was good in his debauchery. He was good in his trickery. And his son Yazid took the cup, as we say, took the medal. For he comes from the loins of a mother who ate the liver of Hamza alayhi salam, Sayyid al-Shuhada. And Imam Zayn al-Abidin points that out in the palace of Yazid and tells him, you are from the progeny of a woman who ate the liver of a great man called Hamza, who was the uncle of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, the theme of my presentation tonight still continues with yesterday, in that you and I need to strive to achieve high moral standards. High moral standards can never be achieved unless we follow leaders who Allah has chosen. Otherwise, there's no such thing as morality. Because morality, if you break it down, is composed of two elements, of good and evil. That's the true definition of ethics, as we call it. The proactive action of morality is called ethical movements. Ethics is based on good versus evil. When someone says he is ethical, this person is a good person. When a person is unethical, they have violated the goodness. Meaning you are scrupulous or unscrupulous. Meaning when you have scruples, scruples means laws. You are following the law. When you violate the law, you've become unscrupulous. Meaning you've become unethical. And anybody in the world, all the statements I'm making, believe me, brothers and sisters, and you know it, cannot be challenged because it's universally accepted that a scrupulous person, a moral person, an upright person, a chaste person is always superior to an unscrupulous, unchaste, ignoble individual. Everybody accepts that. So the question is, since we accept it, but these are just words. Now you and I have to be practical and ask ourselves, what do we do to go towards this statement? Where do I start? What's the pathway? Yesterday I touched on different religions not validating themselves, but we take it at face value. Our fathers told us, or some supposed scripture told us, but when you find contradictions in the scriptures, we put a blind eye towards it and say, I don't want to read this. It's okay, I have faith. My father told me, so it must be right. And I have loyalty to my father. And therefore I maintain my religion. What happened to validating this religion that you're following? Is it valid? Does it have validity? For certainly there is not an individual on earth, whether it be a believer in God or a non-believer in God, that ever that denies the reality that they want to be scrupulous and not unscrupulous. Even an atheist will tell you, I want to be a moral person, I don't want to be an immoral person. So the question is, since we all unanimously agree that we want to be moral people, and here, by the way, morality means what? It means being good. It means abstaining from cheating and lying, and from taking the rights of others, and from killing, and from lying, and doing all types of what we call evil deeds that we all understand, because it's already stamped in our souls. If I say to you, a liar is a bad person, you can't challenge that, because it's stamped in our souls. The Prophet in us is already speaking the truth. It's bowing and said, yes, I agree. Well, then that's the proof against us on Judgment Day. So you and I, when we gather here and we discuss about the Shahada of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, you and I should be asking, why is this Shahada so important? What is so important about this Shahada? It brings scrupulous activities. It brings morality. The dhikr of AhlulBayt is the sign of what we call morality. The Prophet has said, for example, he says, intadhar. He says, afdalul ibadah. Afdalul ibadah. Wa intadharul faraj. Meaning that one of the best ibadah, remembrance towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to have this desire for the Imam of your time to come to you, for you to be next to him. Afdalul ibadah. Meaning that every day when I think of Imam Ali alayhi salam, when I think of the Holy Prophet, when I think of Fatima al-Zahra salamullah, when my actions are revolving around such personalities, my scruples are in front of my eyes. Otherwise it's talk. Otherwise it's just talk. If you don't have a pragmatic example from the scriptures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a practical way, it's impossible for an individual to be scrupulous. It's all talk after that. It's amazing. When I see people of other religions, I see they're sincere people. Whether they're Hindus, Christians, Jews, I look in their eyes and you can see they're sincerely longing to be good. They're not bad people. Most of the people I've met in my life are good people. Even if I've debated them, even if I've challenged them or they've challenged me, Allah is my witness. When I look in their eyes, most of them I say, this is a good person. And if he's fighting for his cause, Allah says, كُلُّ حِزْبٍ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ فَرِحُونَ. Every army fights for its cause. So why shouldn't he fight? After all, at the end of the day, if the person who's professing a particular faith doesn't fight for his faith, what value is in this person? Even though he's rejecting my faith, I honor him that at least he's fighting for his faith. Like Imam Ali alayhi salam says, he says, I'll trade 10 of my supposed followers who are fighting with me in Siffin, who became the Khawarij, for one of Muawiyah's soldiers. Why? Because at least Muawiyah's soldiers were loyal to Muawiyah. Mine are not even loyal. They sell their souls even before the time starts. See, that's the difference. Now you might say, why is that? It's because they haven't understood the value of their Imam. Those who follow Muawiyah understood it from a material point. They were submitting to Muawiyah because they saw the golden pot at the end. But the believer sees the golden pot in Akhirah and in Dunya, but of a different kind. The problem is most of us don't see it. You say to somebody, brother, help me out. Says, you help him out. Says, I make dua for you. Says, dua? What's dua going to do for me? Give me some dollars. Dua. What's dua going to do for me? I pray for you, brother. Thank you. But, the greens would be nice in my wallet. That's the attitude. Whereas a true believer, when you look at them in the eye and say, I pray for you, with a sincere heart, the person says, subhanallah, it's priceless. You see, one has to have faith in that. One has to understand that. Many of us don't understand that. So the value of our Imam in thinking of who they are brings the kind of scruple of a whole different character. You find people of other faiths, unfortunately, as much as they talk about their religion, when you ask them, who's your example? You find that they'll mention some key personalities. But the minute you probe into the person's life, you find such people were really not great people. It was what we call cherry-picked characters. But when you look at our AhlulBayt, even from the mouth of the enemy, Yazid sitting on the throne, while Imam Zainul Abidin is challenging him about the lineage, even Yazid, who was what we call mal'oon upon the mala'een, he said, I can't challenge you about your mother Fatima al-Zahra. There was a man who holds the horse of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, and Imam, he's vilifying the Imam. And he starts vilifying. When he reaches his mother, Fatima al-Zahra, he says, I can't say anything about your mother. She's too great a woman. Imam comes down. The man is vilifying him. This is وَالْقَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. The Imam is in full action. Why? Because they are Qur'an al-Natiq. Natiq, moving Qur'an. This is how blessed you and I are. Nobody in the world, brothers and sisters, nobody, no religion has the examples we have. Prophets and Imams, second to none. That's why the world is baffled today. If you go in history and you see this same shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was desecrated and brought down to the ground a minimum of 7 times, some say 14 or 20 times or whatever the numbers are. From the time of the Umayyads to the Abbasids, constant, the haram of Imam Hussein is being shot at, is being bombed, is being brought down, is coming up. Bombed, coming up. Bombed, coming up. Look at what Saddam did. For 35 years, I think about it, if I was an Iraqi, under his rule, I would have lost my faith. If I'm a weak person, I would have lost my faith. Yet you find, no matter how much he's shooting, bombs are going. Even while he's being hung, millions of people are going towards the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. People are saying, what is this? When I go to the haram of Imam Rada alayhi salam, I am amazed. Never for a second, they say, do you find that sarcophagus of our blessed Imam ever without a human being clinging on to it. Some people say, what kind of worship is this? Let's not get into that business. When you love someone, it is my natural right to want to hug it. When I love someone, I want to shake their hands. I want to pray for them. I want to get near them. Because proximity is a sign of love. And when I want to go closer to some sarcophagus, which is the grave of someone, and I want to put my hand on it and I want to cry, and I want to hold it and beg, this is not bid'ah. If it was bid'ah, I say to you, the wisdom of our blessed messenger is being challenged here. For the Masjid al-Rasul is one of the most sacred institutions in Islam. You find the blessed messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is buried in that very institution. And if it was bid'ah, he would have buried himself in Jannat al-Baqi and not in the Masjid al-Rasul where he used to pray. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this idea that it is bid'ah. Please, they want to cut our love. But you find that every time they bomb the shrines, a bigger one comes up. Because you can't challenge principles. When you start messing around with truth, it becomes clearer. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَزَّهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَحُوقًا. You can't mess with this. You touch it, you get into trouble. Ma'mun tried it. He took a switch in his position. He said, the Umayyads, they were too harsh on the AhlulBayt. I'll switch it. I'll try to buy them. He comes to Imam Rida alayhi salam. What a brilliant presentation, our blessed Imam. See, our Imams, no matter what you do, you're nice to them, you benefit. You're bad to them, you lose, but others benefit. Because you can't lose, you can't win against them. In other words, if you join them, you win. If you go against them, guaranteed you lose, whether you're nice to them or harsh to them. Because it's the truth. See, you can't mess with truth. Ask any human being, even a pathological liar will tell you, truth is, you can't mess with it. Either you join it or you fabricate against it. But ultimately, truth will bring you down like a house of cards. You can't win. You find Ma'mun tries to play that trick on Imam Rida alayhi salam. And he calls him, you see, and creates a pompous presentation. And he's saying, I have decided to abdicate my throne, this khilafah, for you. Because I am not its rightful authority. From the horse's mouth. And then there are people who say, radiyallahu anhu. How? He is admitting himself. He's not rightful. Even Yazid himself knew that. Yazid's son ascends the throne after Yazid's death, Muawiyah II. He said, my father was a liar, a cheat. My grandfather was a liar, a cheat. He stole this caliphate. It belongs to Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. You find, for example, when Ma'mun sits on the throne, he says to Imam Rida alayhi salam, I don't deserve this throne. You have. It's for you. Imam says, if it's not yours, who authorized you to give it? Subhanallah. What an answer. You think you and I can come up with such an answer? No. It takes an Imam to answer this way. And since if it's not yours, why are you sitting on it? Get off. Subhanallah. But a cheat is a cheat. It's too sweet to be on that throne. It's like Bahlul, He sits on the throne and Harun al-Rashid sends his soldiers and whips him. And he comes off the throne and he's crying. Harun says, why are you crying? He said, I sat for a few seconds and I was whipped. Imagine you. I sat a few seconds illegitimately and I was whipped. How about you? Subhanallah. That's the wisdom of companions of AhlulBayt. Stories like these are replete for you and I as followers. That this wisdom, what we call scruples and morality, that we follow by, cannot be challenged on earth. The substantiation we have in our religion by the sheer actions of the moving Quran, the AhlulBayt, is second to none. So the dhikr of such personalities is part of our ibadah at all times, and to have faith in them at all times is what's going to keep us away from doing wrong. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So, my main point I want to make is that the dhikr that we have, brothers and sisters, let's keep it in our day-to-day activities. The remembrance of our Imams, knowing who were they, what did they do, why is it so important? I'll give you an example. People say that this shahada of Imam Hussein, why is it important to you? Many people have been massacred before. Families have been massacred before. Their rights have been taken. Why is it so important for you to follow this one? And we need to articulate it properly. We need to ask them, do you have any historical evidence that a representative of God, along with his family, pure progeny, went in the middle of a battlefield and gave their lives? Do you have anybody like that? Do you have any examples of a representative of God, chosen by God, to have been in the middle of a battlefield and has sacrificed his whole family in front of his eyes? Show me one example. 2, do you have anybody who has ever gone in the middle of a battlefield that while he is fighting and defending the truth, he is teaching the enemy? Do you have any example of a human being that has ever gone on a battlefield and has had compassion for the enemy to the point of stopping the enemy from committing a crime for their own destruction? Have you found anybody who has gone in the middle of the battlefield and in the thick of the battle, in the middle of the battle, at the center of the battlefield, stopped to fight because it was prayer time? and lost half his army? Show me one example. What is Imam Hussein doing in Karbala? He's showing me Islam. He's proving to me his love for Allah. He's proving to me his leadership. He's proving to me the truth of my religion. He's proving to me his ultimate akhlaq towards submitting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is an example for you and me. For if you and I claim to love AhlulBayt, this is the intidar we're talking about. That the minute I think this way, and haram comes my way, it's very hard for me to go towards it. It's hard because Imam comes in the way. He says, if you love me, you can't do that. You have money in your pocket. It doesn't belong to you. If you love me, give it back. I give you an example. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam comes to a man and says, I want to borrow money. You've heard of this hadith, I'll repeat it. Akhlaq, scruples, morals. Brothers and sisters, forget about all the talk about religion and God. If it doesn't translate to what I'm speaking about, please, this whole business of religion is just hot air. I'm not interested. Why do I waste my time? I'm not interested. I don't want to waste my time. The reason I say that is because when I transact in my own community, and if I am living a very unsettling life, because every individual I meet in my community, I have to raise an eyebrow thinking if this person is an honest individual or not, it adds anxiety to my existence. And I don't like that. I always say, when I go shopping in the Middle East, they look at you, If you got the right garb, all the prices just doubled. Because now he wants to rob you with a smile. Now you're a poor innocent person coming from the West. You think it's one price for all. Before you know it, you think you got a bargain. And the next thing you find at the next shop, it's half the price. Or a third of the price. It's very depressing. It's depressing when an individual with a smile robs you. It's wicked. And there are people like that. They stare at you. Glassy eyes. And they rob you. I said, are you a beast or what? No, I'd be insulting the beasts. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam says, comes to a companion and says, I want to borrow some money from you. Can you lend me some amount? And it was a large amount. This was a large amount. And the man says, yeah, Imam, what's the collateral? How are you going to back it up? Imam says, I don't have a collateral. I don't have anything to back up this loan. But I do have something I'll give you as a collateral. And the man knows this is the Imam. So there was a loose string hanging on the abba of the blessed Imam, and he pulls it. He pulls it, he wraps it, and he gives it to the man. He said, this is my collateral. This is a lesson for us all. And by the way, we speak about scruples and responsibility. A side note, when this basket is coming next to you, scruples is to support the cause of Allah. Scruples, morality, is to participate in giving. They give. They give. You see? Whether it's in good times or bad. We're not talking about taking money from you. I hate that evangelical approach, When I was poor, I gave a lot of money and I became rich. And now you are poor, give me a lot of money and you'll all become rich. Not that mentality. Give it for the sake of Allah. Contribute, whether it's 1 cent, $1, $100, doesn't matter. But it is sad in our societies when institutions are seeking for money. Good institutions. And the society is not there to help. And I'm not saying this community, subhanAllah, this community is one of the most generous communities I have ever seen in the world. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Jafar Sadiq takes the money. This man says, this is the Imam. He's giving me a piece of thread which is worthless as collateral. But the Imam is showing the value. Allahu Akbar. It's a dream. It's a dream to live in a society where the blessed Imam Jafar Sadiq is speaking to I think his name was Abu Basir. He says to him, do you know who is a believer? He said, teach me, Ya Imam. He says, the believer puts his hand even in the hands of his brother's pocket and takes what's his right. And the brother doesn't ask him what he's doing. Do we live like that? Do we have a society like that? We have people cheating, lying, unscrupulous. Unscrupulous people who have the audacity, and I say audacity though it's a blessing, but at the same time we need to look at ourselves and say, how dare, in the same breath, the same tongue that says, Ya Hussein, you say the Holy Prophet's name, and yet you do this? How? It's mixing oil and water. Doesn't make sense. And let's try to eradicate this. The power we have, the power of this pulpit, the power of this Quran is precisely that Allah has empowered you and me to bring each other towards the good morals, and no one can challenge you. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'm going to conclude shortly. My time is short tonight, but I'm going to do my best to conclude on this. You find the man gives the money to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, and in time, Imam comes and gives him the money back. The Imam never steals, never has allowed theft, robbery, abuse, ever. That's what makes my heart palpitate towards them. I feel consolation. I feel warmth. I feel secure. I feel empowered. Honestly, when I see the leaders who are representing AhlulBayt today, who are the resistant forces, breaking the knees of the enemies, I see in their eyes comfort, security, smiling. They're fighting, small army, but man, are they putting terror into the eyes of the disbelievers. You know why that comfort is there? It's not false. It's not a false sense of comfort. It's not because we held on to some leaders that we thought are good for us. Oh no. No. It's truth. It's real. It's tangible. You feel the pulse, and the enemy feels it too. Oh yeah. Muhammadur Rasulullah alladhina ma'ahu ashiddau ala al-kuffar ruhamau baynahum. تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوان سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود. Allahu Akbar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, those who are with the messenger, they are firm against the enemy. They are gentle with each other. And you see them bowing, prostrating. And you see on their faces signs of prostration, because they are firm. They don't cheat. They don't lie. They are firm that today even the enemy turns the television on to listen to the other side, the leader of the other side. What does he have to say? Because he doesn't lie. Allahu Akbar. That's the empowerment of AhlulBayt, brothers and sisters. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajlim farajahum wa la'anahum. Imam Zainul Abidin, Imam Jafar Sadiq, forgive me, gives the money back, and the man is about to take. Imam says, where's my collateral? The man thinks it's a piece of thread. Imam says, a contract is a contract. Even if it is on a thread. Wallah, why? Wallahu basirun bima ta'amalun. Allah sees what you do. Don't mess around with that. Many of us are oblivious of the fact that Allah sees us. Oblivious. I've got money in the pocket, it's not mine. Who cares? We'll have amnesia for a few years. We'll forget about it. That's what happens. All the time. This is why the zikr, what the Prophet said, Afdalul ibadah. The best ibadah is the intidar. Why the intidar? People say, what is this intidar? You have a hidden imam. What are you talking about? I'm talking about scruples and morality. I'm talking about putting somebody in front of me that guides me. For if I don't have that, shaitan is going to misguide me, guaranteed. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Alam ahad ilaykum ya bani Adam. Ahad ilaykum. Allah said, did we not warn you? Ya bani Adam, an la ta'budu shaytan. Innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. That he is your great enemy. Didn't we warn you? Well, how do you take this warning if you don't make sure that the Imam is always in front of you? The Prophet is always in front of you. The love of AhlulBayt is always in front of you. The desire to do ziyarat and to go to the qabr of our A'immah and to stand in front of it and to look at it with reverence and to cry for the injustice that took place by the hands of tyrants and to say, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, that I will not be like this. I wish I was with you. I would have defended the truth. The Imam is replying us that every day in your transactions when you wake up in the morning, you are my representative. Are you representing the truth in your transactions? And if you're not, then you are not in my party. You're not. Don't give us lip service. But look at the blessed Imam. Even for a piece of thread, he's teaching me. He says, Hassanain, understand that even if there was no thread, if you made that agreement, stick to it. Yufuna bin nadhr. You keep your promise. Whether it means your loss, you take it, but you keep it. Allahu Akbar. This is Islam, brothers and sisters. Imam Zainul Abidin is speaking while he's addressing the gathering in Kufa, in Damascus. Yazid is hungry. Why? He wants to bring these scruples down. He wants us to be alcoholics. Because he was an alcoholic. He played with monkeys. He said, I'm the first man ever to have raced monkeys on camels. What an idle-minded fool he was. Who has the time to race monkeys on camels? But he did. And then some people call him radiyallahu an. May God be pleased with him. I say you are fools to call him may God be pleased with him. How can God be pleased with shaitan? You tell me. How can God be pleased with one who rejects him? How can Allah allow a rejecter and be good with him when Allah is adil? Allah is just. He is arhamur rahimeen. Who are we fooling? This is the religion we are upholding. This is the religion I'm talking about. Imam Zainul Abidin says, all praise is due to Allah, for whom there is neither any beginning nor any end, for He is eternal. This is speaking to Yazid now. Yazid is sitting on his throne, golden throne, playing with the head of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. What a vision! What a vision, I say to you, brothers and sisters. There are stories here that we will cry. We will cry for what happened. They traveled 1,400 kilometers from Karbala all the way to Damascus. They were taken to Kufa. From Kufa, in different routes, paraded public to public. Yazid thought that he's parading his might and power, but actually he was bringing himself down. Because every human being that had even a little heart in him or her noticed the difference between haqq and batil, and that was all it took. And Imam Hussein's victory, his vision, his mission was superior. That when he went, Yazid was a fool in thinking that he's going to win. Imam Hussain alayhi salam won. That Mahatma Gandhi says we will take India from the British, the way Hussein ibn Ali peacefully destroyed the Umayyad Empire. Imam Zainul Abidin, I'm concluding. My time is up. He says, oh people. Look at Imam Zainul Abidin. Every opportunity. You know, there's a beautiful statement Imam Zainul Abidin makes. When Yazid was speaking in his pride, eventually the Imam and Zainab alayhi salam were breaking this fortress of Yazid, chipping it. And Yazid noticed this is happening in his own house. Look at the power of AhlulBayt. They're in chains, but they're not afraid. I'm honored to be a Shia. I'm honored to be a lover of AhlulBayt. I'm honored to represent the dunya. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. That's you and me, brothers and sisters. Why? Because we get this message. Imam Zainul Abidin says, people, I'm teaching you people. By the way, before Imam Zainul Abidin started, he asked Yazid, he said, do you allow me to climb up these pieces of wood, this pulpit? Mimbar in Islam is a sacred institution. Muawiyah wanted to destroy that. He tried it. He didn't succeed. Imam Zainul Abidin is asking him, do you allow me to climb up these pieces of wood so that I can talk to these people? Pieces of wood? I thought it's a mimbar. Imam is implying to me that when a tyrant sits on it, it is pieces of wood. When haqq sits on it, it becomes mimbar. Look at Imam Zain al-Abidin. He says, "O people, Allah has granted us, AhlulBayt, 6 things and favored us with some more. We have been granted wisdom, clemency, magnanimity, oratory, courage, and love for us in the hearts of the faithful believers. We have been favored with the advent of a prophet from among us, a Siddiq, a Tayyar, meaning Ja'far, who is his uncle. The lion, Asadullah Ghalib, who is that? Hamza. And 2 of the masters of the youth of paradise, Sayyid al-Shabab, Ahlul Jannah, Hassanain Rajabali. The Prophet is saying, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn, Sayyid al-Shabab, Ahlul Jannah, leaders of the youth of paradise. Whoever recognizes me knows who I am. Let me tell those who do not know me that I am the son of Makkah and Mina. I am the son of Zamzam and Safa. I am the son of the one who carried the rukn in the midst, in the mantle, which is the black stone, Hajar al-Aswad, meaning he's talking about his lineage. He says, I am the son of the best of all persons who ever done the ihram, meaning the ihram, and made the tawaf and the sa'i and the marwa. And I am the son of the best among those who has ever performed hajj and recited the talbiyah. I am the son of the one who rode on the buraq when the Prophet went up to the heavens. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid Haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna hawla. Imam Zain al-Abidin is speaking like this. The people, this is a long one, I don't have time. People started to cry. They begin to realize this man is the chosen representative of Allah. You can imagine the vision. Zainab is on one side. She's attacking Yazid and telling him, Yabna tulaqi, ya taliq, you son of a freed slave, your father was a tyrant who fought my grandfather. And my grandfather freed you in Mecca. We freed you. And you are sitting on that throne, illegitimate throne. And you find that the mission started. The mission started, and you find this majlis is taking place today. You find all around the world. And Zainab alayhi salam mentions, she says, your progeny will soon vanish. Yazid, the son of Muawiyah had a dream that his progeny will rule forever. Yazid was his only son who ruled. His grandson, Muawiyah's grandson, abdicated because he was a lover of AhlulBayt. Because his mother Hind, the wife of Yazid, was a good woman, just like the wife of Fir'aun. And you see, good women bring good children. That even a tyrant whose wife is a good woman brings a good son, who rises and sits on the pulpit and says, my father was a liar. Within 40 days, Marwan ibn Hakam poisons him and kills him, and he takes the caliphate, and Muawiyah never gets his dream. Ibn Ziyad built a white palace in Basra. Not a single day. Imam Hussain said to him, not a day, oh Ibn Marjana, not even a day you will stay in this house. He said to Umar ibn Sa'd, that governorship that Ibn Ziyad has promised you, that governorship that Yazid has promised you, you won't have it. None of you will get it. Shimmer, you won't get it. None of you will get it. This is a false promise this evil man has made to. And I conclude with a vision. There was a name by the name Habiba. I conclude. Where Zainab and the caravan alayhi salam was moving towards Kufa. And Habiba was on the balcony, and she was a lover of AhlulBayt. And her love was for AhlulBayt. You and I have love for AhlulBayt, so you and I can be like Habiba. She sees this caravan coming, and she sees heads on spears, and she sees a band of women held in chains being dragged. And she sees a young girl, Sakina, thirsty, crying. From far she sees her. She says, I remember my master Ali ibn Abi Talib, who told me that whenever you feed or you give water to somebody who is in need, their prayer is accepted. She runs from her house. She takes a glass of water and she comes down and she gives it to Sakina. I see this vision. A woman who's not aware that who she's giving that water to is somebody very important that she loves. And she gives the water, Sakina drinks it. She said, young girl, make dua for me. Because my master has told me that when I feed a poor person, their prayer is accepted. The girl says, what's the prayer? She says, pray that I get the vision of Zainab alayhi salam because I love her so much. I want to see her. Intidar. The girl says, Zainab alayhi salam looks at her and talks to her. She said, if you saw this Zainab, would you recognize her? She said, yes. I was with her. She taught me the Quran. She taught me my life. Zainab says, don't you recognize me? Ana Zainab. Habiba becomes so distraught. She says, this is Kulthum. This is Fatima al-Kubra. Don't you see us? She says, you have reached such an abject state by this tyrant that I didn't even recognize you. She starts to cry. She puts her face on the foot of Zainab and begins to cry. And she jumps and she goes towards the enemy, cursing them, how dare. And they said the enemy hit her so hard that some said she got her martyrdom right then and there and she died. This is the intizar we're talking about. The intizar that if you told me who was Habiba before this incident, I can tell you that she was a chaste, submissive, kind and generous person. ألا لعنة الله إلى القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. My respected brothers and sisters, let us pray for those brothers and sisters in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Afghanistan, in Palestine. They are suffering as we sit here comfortably. Let's pray for them, that Allah alleviates their burden soon and gives peace and tranquility to all of the human race. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.